Starling was limited, Deion Bailey was limited, Hayes Pollard was limited, Martin Coleman did not practice, George Farmer was limited, Mark Tyler was limited, Marquise Lee and Robert Woods were limited. So obviously we hope to get all those guys back. It's good to be a day ahead, and two long hard practices, and now we got to continue to work on the mental game more than the physical game.
Is there a way almost that not having a bowl game in a postseason and all that makes the approach for these kids, like in a November practice today on pads, different?
I don't think so. No, I don't think they think about that. I mean, you have to ask them, but I just think they go to work and come to practice, and whatever we put on the schedule, they do. It's a good team, a bunch of good kids that work really hard, work together as a team, and I think that's what people are seeing too in them. I think that's showing up in the attendance that, people around LA are, really appreciating the way that they're working, the way they're playing.
Deion did not have the yellow jersey on today. Does that mean he passed his concussion test?
No, he still hadn't. He had the yellow. He took it off because he was getting teased so much, but he still didn't do any contact.
And what about Mark? Has he been medically cleared yet?
Mark could play right now, but we're still trying not to get him hit. That's just going to be a game time decision. I mean, how much he could do, whether he could play or not. He can move ahead. He can move straight ahead right now and do some things, but he couldn't play if we were playing today.
You mentioned last year how Sark is kind of an expert at the Lou Holtz game of pumping up the opponent. He seemed to be in that mode yesterday. He said that, first of all, you guys are still the most talented team in the Pac-12. What do you think of that?
Well, that's good, because he lost by 50 to Stanford. So if we have more talent than them, we should be in good shape. We don't even have to show up. He'd been doing that for a while, and obviously he's already played Andrew Luck, or else he wouldn't have made that statement he made.
You said that Luck was maybe the best college quarterback ever, and he's saying he'd take Matt ahead of the best college quarterback. What does that say about his evaluation skills?
Well, he's never been an NFL head coach. Remember? He turned it down. Made me go.
If you were an NFL coach right now, who would you take?
Oh, I can't make that decision. I'm just trying to get ready for this week. Obviously, they're both going to have great careers, and it depends on the system that you run and what you're looking for. And like I said, I think they're very similar quarterbacks in almost all aspects of the game. The thing Andrew has over him is he's faster. Nothing against Matt. It just is what it is. He's faster, and he can make more plays running away from people. But I think really the rest of the game is extremely similar. The way they throw in the pocket, the way they throw on the move, how smart they are at the position. So I think that they're both no-brainers.
Is either one of those guys going to be system dependent at all at the next level? Plug him into the right offense or keep playing day?
Well, I think that league is almost all the same in general. So I don't think that it really matters that much. Almost everybody is, college, there's a lot of differences in the system. There's not that much difference there. Like always with that position, though, it's not just necessarily the system, it's really what's around you in that league. Your organization, the commitment to putting players in place around you, and a consistent staff so that you're not learning new systems all the time, will always play a big part in the success of that position.
Do you think Sark just wants to make sure that Matt doesn't come back for a senior year?
Yeah, and then all the other guys that he said were first rounders. So,
talking about throwing on the run, Matt says that's one of the off-season focuses. Is he throwing on the run better than you thought he would and moving around in the pocket, doing things?
I wouldn't say better than I thought, but he has improved on it. If you look at his numbers on the move, they're unbelievable. And so he's done a great job of that on called runs, and even now of late, a couple plays that he's made on his own. So, he's continuing to develop. He's playing at a high level, and you can't argue with his numbers and what he's doing. And I said before, he'd be in the Heisman race, if there were things different out of his control. If he had more consistency around him with some more veteran players, and if we were better on defense and holding people at the end of games, he'd be right in there.
Nick Perry said in spring he wanted to have 15 sacks this season. He's not on that pace. How would you assess how he has played this season?
Yeah, I think Nick's played really well. He's been really close. There's been a number of holding penalties where he would have had sacks, which is just as good as a sack almost for us. So he's making a lot of explosive plays, tackles for losses, and dominating plays where guys are having to throw the ball early. So I think Nick's playing really well.
On that theme, Coach O said that the D-line in general hasn't performed up to expectations. Do you agree with that?
Well, I wouldn't say really in the run game. I think that we'd like some more production in the pass game. More sacks, more third down wins in the one-on-ones, especially inside. So yeah, I'd agree with that. In the pass game, but I think they played really well in the run game.
You faced a kind of a small running back last week, and you had a bigger, more powerful one this week, who's one of the most productive players in the league. What is the sort of the game plan to stop Polk?
Tackle really well. Just look no further than what happened Saturday night. Oregon tackled great the whole game. They swarmed the ball. They tackled really well. They knocked the pile back, and it's why they held him to the numbers that they did, and held him to the numbers too, rushing. I think it's the first time all year they were under 100 yards. So it's not real complicated. Tackle the guy really well and don't let him keep falling forward.
What's your relationship like with Sark?
I think it's a really good relationship. We go back to the first week that we were here, and then spent 5 of 6 years here together, and then have spent a lot of time since then, on the phone or around each other in the off season.
He's 2-0 against USC since he went up there to Washington. How much is it because he is familiar with the system you guys run, and also Coach Holt as well?
Well, he's 2-0 against a lot of people. They've done a great job. 10 in the last 13 games I think they won, and so it's a phenomenal coaching job when you look at where that program was when he got there. I think they won the year before or something. So he's on the right track. He's doing things the right way. They're recruiting well and coaching really well, and his players seem like they love playing for him. They play really hard. As far as the familiarity with the roster, that helps. That'll dwindle as time goes, because he did coach these older players here and recruited them and knows them, and so that disappears obviously the longer that we stay. A couple years from now, you won't have had any knowledge of these guys.
You said yesterday about the improving numbers and stuff, the ways that Matt has improved over the course of the year. What accounts for how he's been able to do that?
I don't think that that's Matt. I've said it from day one, when at the beginning of the season. It's the pieces around him coming into place. Think where Marquise Lee was, week 1 and week 2, and just trying to line up and getting penalties and running routes at wrong depth. And we went to that in the 2 tight ends who'd never played before, and then we started a freshman tailback for him at that time. Here comes a freshman left guard starting for him. So all those pieces are settling down around him. I don't think he's really doing much different.
So fundamentally, mechanically, he's basically the same guy.
No, he's been playing the same all year. But now these pieces are in place around him, and they're being more consistent, and they're making the plays. That's why we're seeing the better numbers.
What about relative to last year, though, in terms of the way he's managed to do that?
Well, I think that's being comfortable in the system. Last year was his first year in the system, and it was for all of them. And they've been a year removed from anything close to it. They were very different the year before he got here. So Matt had no knowledge of what we were doing, and so I think that he was just getting used to that.
Are you surprised at all that their quarterback Price has played as well as he has in his first season with very little experience coming in?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I think that goes back to the coaching. Sark's done it wherever he's been. His quarterbacks have played really well even when they haven't played before. So I wouldn't say surprised. I just think it's a product of having a good system, and he must have done a great job. The kid must have done a great job learning the system last year, even though he was backing up Jake.
Sark said the secret to being to it is getting it into a one-possession game in the fourth quarter and then executing at the very end. How about this team for you? Do you have a better sense of how they're going to execute at the very end of a game now?
Well, I think we're better than we were last year, or better than we were at the beginning of this year, as far as a team, and playing better in fourth quarters for the most part. If you look at a year ago, it was so lopsided. But look at how we play. We've gotten a little bit more depth. You go back to last year's games. Armand Armstead's playing 72 snaps in the game. I think we had 4 defensive linemen play over 65 snaps in the game, and so we were just. And you look at that last series, we were just dead. And even though we were so close, we sack them on third down. The ball's there. If we fall on it, we're going to win the game. And they get the ball, and then they make the fourth down conversion, and then you could see how tired we were. So we do a better job of rotating guys in because we have a few more bodies. And so I think that's helped us too, play better in the fourth quarter.
How about offensively? Matt obviously had the 2 throws at the end of last year that could have salted the game away. How's he and the offense handled the fourth quarter?
Well, I think we're a lot better now. A year ago, same thing. We were just okay. You look at that game. I think he's 14 of 18, and then those last 2 incompletions, and they're inches away. Osbury's wide open, and then Jordan Cameron's wide open, and so those are just the little inches that are the difference. Or that game's completely different, and we're having a lot of different conversations about how we finish.